Great. And so we'll go ahead and start. And I'm not sure we'll end up going the whole 2 hours. I had one section I was going to talk about, and then I realized I forgot to upload it before I left home. So, and it was nothing essential, but we may come back and do that. And I have nothing I'm really going to share on the screen, which helps save some of the bits of memory so that I don't risk losing the internet or buffering problems. So I'm not going to share the agenda, but I will walk us through that. So I think we have enough time to do introductions. And so I will pick 2 people and then we'll go on. And actually, I'm going to make a break. Sophia Lopez is joining us. This is her first meeting. She's new with the city of Seattle. She replaced Matt Offlick. And so I'm going to let her do her full introduction first so that she can then go on to dinner and resume driving. So Sophia, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, can you hear me okay? Great. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for letting me join your meeting today. I am looking forward to making this a regular attendance. I understand my predecessor, Matt, used to attend as he could. I'm hopeful to be able to make all your monthly meetings, at least so that I can stay connected and just be aware of what you're doing. You are all just doing wonderful work in the community, and we're ever so thankful to have this partnership with you. For those who don't know, I have been in the region since 2015. I started out at the city of Bellevue, where I did volunteer management, and for a brief period of time, I was the interim emergency manager for the city of Bellevue for almost 6 months. I actually hired Curry Mayer. So I always tell her one of my proudest accomplishments in my career was getting to say that I hired Curry Mayer and I brought her into the county. I brought her into the region as the emergency manager for Bellevue. And so then I was able to work under her tutelage for a little over a year before I left to go to the county. And so I came from the county in the Office of Emergency Management doing community outreach and education. And now I'm here at the city of Seattle, where it's always kind of been the Emerald City, the desired place that was just unable to grab. And so I'm here now and I'm excited, and we have a great team. Tate Thatch and Mary Gerardo work with me in the outreach team, and actually we're attending the Rainier Communication Hub program happening tomorrow evening. I'm not sure if you're familiar or connected to Ron Angeles. Looking forward to getting to learn more about Seattle Hub communities in general. And I already actually have somebody, Cindy, that I'm going to be connecting you with, that I had a wonderful conversation with. She lives in Capitol Hill and very much wants to connect with the hub or get a hub started. So we had a great conversation. She has a lot of EM experience, retired from federal government. And her name is Tamika Robertson, in case anyone that maybe
So you're Sophia, you're breaking up or super scratchy. I got about 60% of what you just said. Meeting a person from Capitol Hill, and then she's what?
Her name is Tamika Robertson. She's looking to connect with a community hub or a hub that might already exist in Capitol Hill, and if one doesn't exist, to get one started.
Okay.
But with that, I'll stop there, and I'll make sure to put my info in the chat so you have it. If you ever want to reach out, pick my brain, you have some ideas and just want to chat about EM prep stuff, and I am here for you to support you in your endeavors. And I thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you for tuning in. And she's going to stay on, but she'll be on mute while she's finishing dinner or going back out to her car and driving. So the next one after Sophia is going to be Sandy and then Ann. I've been writing names down, so I'm just going to go down the list.
Hi, Sandy Motzer from the Lake City Hub. Nice to see you all.
And then Ann, followed by Jack.
Ann Forrest from the Victory Heights Hub.
Jack Herndon, co-captain of the Finney Hub.
Okay. And then we'll do Andy and Catherine.
Andy Peck was affiliated with the Belltown Hub, moved down to Maple Valley about 4.5 years ago. So I'm basically a groupie.
Catherine, then Louise, and then Cheryl.
Catherine Keller, Homer Harris Hub. Central area.
And Louise, Cheryl, and then Jim. Oh, Louise, you're on mute.
That's why. Louise Luthy, Laurelhurst Hub.
Cheryl,
And Cheryl Dyer, Ballard, Loyal Heights Hub.
and then Jim, followed by Frank and Sarah.
Finney Hub co-captain along with Jack.
Frank, Sarah, and then Gabrielle. Frank, you're on mute. Frank, you're muted.
I understand. Okay. Frank Gall, Magnolia Hub. Okay.
Sarah, Gabrielle, and then Bill.
Sarah Armstrong, Madison Park Hub.
Gabrielle Gerhard, Windermere North, Sandpoint Hub.
Bill, and then Bill, and then Patty.
Bill Fay, the Queen Anne Hub.
And Patty McKee, Windermere Sandpoint Hub.
And then Susan and Brianna.
Susan Sanders, Dejan Park Hub, Beacon Hill and Beacon Emergency Action Network.
Brianna Edwards on Maple Leaf South Hub.
Great. Cindy Barker, Morgan Junction Hub. And I saw another way that did it where everybody put their hands up. You know, the facilitator said, put your hands up. And then that way everybody knew who was needing to be called on to, you know, put their hand down. And so once you know, but you just had to, you know, as people came in, you had to go put your hand up so people can call on you. So it was kind of weird. I'll have to figure that one out. Jack, I love watching your cat tail. So, all right. So as I had said to a couple folks coming on, I'm not going to bother putting up the agenda because it just does take so much bandwidth sometimes to do the sharing of the screen and stuff. So I'm just going to walk down the agenda. Is there anybody willing to take notes tonight? Because I'm not in the position to where I'm going to want to do it. And so all we'd have is the recording. Because we are recording, we do get a, let's see, did I turn on closed captioning? Oh, hey, Anne, you should get a request for closed captioning.
I enabled it.
Okay, and so
And
now that closed
Gabrielle
captioning is, Gabrielle's,
is taking notes.
oh, super, okay.
But
And
I'm keeping it very short.
yeah, yep, that's fine. I'll put the recording will get up when I get to a library and have internet bandwidth that can handle it. So that, thank you for doing that. So we're just gonna walk down the agenda and hopefully we'll have a lot of time for open discussion at the end, some around the room for what people are thinking of doing. First thing on the agenda is Ann and I wanted to give a report out. We had asked for a meeting with the new director of OEM, Curry Mayer, back in the fall, and they were onboarding their new replacement for Matt, Sophia, and so we were asked to wait until Sophia was on so that we could do kind of a joint meeting. So we did that early in January. And the real thing I wanted to pass on about our meeting with them is she's very welcoming and very accepting of the hub concept. She's still coming up a little bit to speed on what we do. And I don't know if anybody, I did not send her directly our activity report. I'll do that tomorrow and say, I don't think she gets the newsletter either because, you know, I don't add them. They have to ask. And so I'll send her the newsletter and the activity report so she can sort of get a glance at what we did last year. But she was very encouraging about working together with us. And so one of the things that we got out of that was kind of the priorities. She has met with all the staff now and caught up on what each of the planners is doing and some of the existing projects. And so they had three focus things that she has seen synergize out of her discussions. One of their primary focuses beyond the normal staff functions and training that they do is they're going to focus on youth. They're making some new partnerships with the Seattle School District and also some private youth groups. And so helping youth get involved in disaster preparedness is one of their big goals. The second one is working with the private sector, which is for us all very good news because we all wonder how the business community is getting engaged and how are we making partnerships with some of the bigger companies in Seattle who could be great resources during a catastrophic response or even during a COVID type response if you're really having to look at supply chain issues. And so it's working especially with the partners who have already come to the OEM and expressed an interest in preparedness. And then also reaching out and helping any companies who want to do more preparedness for private company employees. So that is a big effort. And the third area is they're going to continue to focus with city staff because all the departments have important functions to perform. And we'll talk about a concept that's coming up in a little bit about the earthquake and isolation, where they're creating places where city employees can come help in a response, which might be beyond what their normal assignment is if they can't get to their normal job. So that was, those are their three focus areas, and we have interest in all three of those. And so we had also given her a list of all the projects we have in work, just so that they're aware of what we've got going on. And that was kind of my top notes. And I see Anne's got so there's chatting going on, which of course I can't read. Anne, is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, except maybe a quick comment about the DMC meeting today. Just
Go ahead.
I don't really remember it, except I was very excited. Just that I remember one thing they said, which is super important, that they understand that the people, and that's everybody on this call and just the average citizen, are going to stand up and do things after a disaster. And they really understand that their job is to supplement what's already in place instead of coming in and telling us we're doing it wrong and redoing everything we've established in those first 3 to 4 days. So that was incredibly heartening that they realize that it's going to happen and that their job is to not muck with it. Don't muck with it if it's working.
It was more the specific way they said it was to enable what is in place to work rather than to hinder it. So yeah, that is a good segue. Does Gabrielle has her hand up first though.
What's DMC?
The Disaster Management Committee meeting, that happens once a month, and there's about 5 people from the hubs who had volunteered to be on their distribution list so they could pop in and listen to what was being covered. And today was a really good topic. There was a presentation of the rough draft of the earthquake and isolation concept of workforce rally points. They call it WRM, but workforce rally points. And that's where basically they are using that one concern tool to kind of look around and go, where would be good places where we could say within islands of isolation. So they've mapped the city and gone kind of in each sector, we know where there's some obvious Magnolia, Queen Anne, like Magnolia, you're an island. West Seattle, you're kind of an island, and you're kind of an island from South Park because of the landslide potential. So they've mapped the islands of the city. And then within those kind of 7 sectors, they're identifying places where city employees can go if they are cut off from what their emergency response job would be. So let's say you are supposed to open the community center in Northgate, right? But you happen to live in West Seattle and you cannot get to Northgate, so you can't get there. And the second thing is you cannot reach your leadership for an assignment, for an alternate assignment. In that case, you would be expected to go to the workplace rally point and be assigned some other local job. And so it's a concept they're working through, and they've had a discussion with Anne and me about, we knew that this was going on before COVID, and it's finally been picked up again after COVID. And so we're kind of doing a level setting meeting with Consuelo Crow, who's the lead on this, about what they had said in the past versus where they are today. So what I just told you is kind of where they are today. And the other things that they're expanding to add into that, which we will have Consuelo here to talk to you about, is what kind of ham radio information will go to the rally points that can also be an asset to us in the hubs. And they're particularly looking at making sure there's some equity questions issued, like the question of public health information, for example, in language, which is our concern because we don't have all our materials in every single language either. And so I see a great partnership coming where if they're able to get that to the rally points, we can get to the rally points and then distribute it further out into the neighborhoods. And so we can be a feeder network without having to figure out ourselves what to stash in every single language. So we're looking forward to more conversations about that and developing it. And so Consuelo gave this rough draft today. And so we'll probably invite her to the next hub captain meeting or a deep dive meeting to continue the discussion. So the disaster management committee, the last part of that is they give briefings. We did an after action report today of the winter sheltering experience over the holiday. And we saw briefings from King County and FEMA about what their overall earthquake plans are. So Jack has a question: how many languages are being considered? I didn't ask, but for sure it would be the top 7. They call those the first tier languages, and then they have another 15, which they call tier 2. So between 7 and 15. Questions? Any other questions about the DMC Disaster Management Committee meeting? In that meeting is a representative from every single department in the city. And today, interestingly enough, there were at least 3 people from the mayor's office, which I have never seen before. So that was exciting to see that there was high interest from the mayor's office. Anything else? Okay. The next thing I had on the agenda is the thing I muffed up. I forgot to scan these in before I left. I found the Post-it on the stack when I got here in Arizona. And it is kind of talking to you about what happened during the flooding. Ann and I get emails from the Washington Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster, WAVOAD. And that's people like the Red Cross, Salvation Army. A lot of church groups have nationwide reaction teams. And they had been called to help up in the flooding event up in Whatcom County. And so because of that, we got to see their activity reports as they were coming through. And so I have a set of stuff to share with you guys at some point about what a disaster response looks like as it's going on, so that you kind of, we'll be out in the woods, you know, doing it all, and you'll be able to think through what's going into the city and how are they organizing it and using it. And the organization is important because everybody has moved to adopting something we mentioned a couple of years ago called community lifelines. And that is organizing your reporting and your response around 7 key critical areas that occur in almost every disaster. And those areas are, see, if I scanned it in, I would put it up on the screen for you, but we'll come back to this and cover it in detail. But one lifeline is transportation. And you heard Patty Quirk, if you were on the deep dives, talk about the critical infrastructure around the transportation lifelines. The second one is communications. The third one is a combination of food, water, shelter. So that is all your health and human services. The fourth one is health and medical lifeline, then energy. The 6th is safety and security. And the last one is hazardous material. So in the flooding ones, they didn't talk about hazmat or safety and security so much, but they were very focused on the food, water, and shelter, the transportation, and the health because of the COVID aspect of it. So I want to bring those to you so you can see what those look like as they're reporting, and you can see how a city or an entity, in this case it was the county, goes, here is our need in this lifeline. Who's got the action to fix the problem in the lifeline? How are we assuring that the lifeline is getting to the people who it's needed? So it was really good. It's kind of your mini professional training that you get as being part of the Hub Captain Network. Ooh, look at Ann, so good. Questions on that? Okay, it would have been fun to show you, but it'll get us a little time back tonight. So the next thing I have is network news and status on current projects. I'm going to put the one concern down to the bottom so I can give myself a breath of talking. The first one I want to ask about is that, is there any outreach topics people are thinking we should be gearing up? We ask this every time. We kind of end up defaulting to urban survival skills fairs. Are there any outreach and again, I'm asking this with bad timing. Oh, we're peaking on Omicron, so nobody's really thinking about it. But just in case, has anybody come up with something they're thinking they want to do in 2022 for outreach?
I'll talk. In Victory Heights, I'm committed to doing 2 things a year. I can't build a culture of preparedness in my neighborhood unless I keep hitting folks. The random jab at the preparedness isn't getting me anywhere. So twice a year is my goal. So in April, we want to do like an open house with the hub, mini urban survival skills fair. And then the following month, so what I'd like to do is talk to people about food and the idea and the importance and the beauty of doing meals with neighbors post-disaster. And then a month later, I'd like to have just like an open exhibit of ways to cook food. So I'm getting super interested in bio stoves and, we got a pizza oven for Christmas and that's wood burning and that kind of stuff. So getting people together to maybe make a pot of soup or something, and everybody cooks on a different, Cindy's got something to say. Everybody cooks on a different device, whether it's a barbecue grill or a propane burner, like a crab boil kind of thing, or a bio stove or a pizza oven or whatever, and see what kind of foods we can come up with. Invite neighbors, everybody tastes whatever we made, which is the fun, but really it's the idea of thinking about how are you going to feed yourself after a disaster and doing it as a neighborhood, not individual households. So that's March and April in Victory Heights. That's my goal. Go ahead, Cindy.
March and April. Okay. So I can bring my tripod that I got for Christmas that you hang a big cast iron kettle from, which I have been dying to use, but I don't give parties for 30 in the outdoors, so yeah, that is what this ham radio thing's like. They had a big thing where it was all afternoon, everybody brought their cast iron and everybody cooked pioneer style, and then they ate it for a potluck dinner. So fantastic.
Very fun. Take pictures, Cindy. That sounds great. Or has this happened already?
It's already happened, yeah. Cool. Anybody else have outreach ideas?
The Finney Hub, we just kind of got off the ground, got started, Jack and I, just before COVID, like 2019. And then last year with vaccinations, everybody, it seemed like things were going to open up, and then Delta surfaced. Anyway, I think this summer, we definitely need to just get out, set up the hub, get people in the neighborhood to see it. The silver lining is we've never done anything, so the bar is really low.
Well, I would say, I would agree with Jim that this coming year, I'd like to see us do a setup with it. I mean, I think it'd be stepwise for us to do an organizational setup with your active members, and then do a community involvement setup, and in description of what we're doing, and sort of a hubs fair sort of deal, to engage people later on in the year. Yeah, I think that's where I'd like to go too.
Great. Thank you, guys. Anybody else got any thoughts? Louise, I actually will put you on the spot. You did some stuff last year. Are you going to continue that kind of arc of training that you were doing?
We are, and we're following Anne's training model of the 30-minute class. People are so enamored with that prospect. We are currently working on psych first aid, having a psychologist in our neighborhood give a 30-minute class. And it's a really great idea that she finally came up with, is to find a video and have the class figure out what the problems were, how the problems were solved, and how they could have been better solved, and sort of have a group dynamic, and so therefore interactive and engaging, and probably more free-forming and informative than a more linear class. And we're going to try to do something like that on some kind of a regular basis. But as everybody's rocking the boat with COVID, so are we. So yeah. And we really want to do something to do in the community, but we just don't know what it is yet. We've talked about it. Food truck, open house, skill, something, but we haven't come up with it.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for letting me put you on the spot.
Sure.
Anybody else have something they want to share? Oh, Bill?
Yeah, just the Miqua hubs, that's Magnolia and Queen Anne hubs. We've just talked positively about at some point this summer doing a setup, just because we've been boxed up for so long. We just want to get out there. Like do one or the other and trade off and stuff like that. So,
did I miss it? Did Frank disappear?
yeah, and he called me on the phone and said something about, he asked me if I had lost you, and I said no. So for some reason his computer stopped. And,
God.
and that was
fear of us all.
ago. So he said he was going to try to come back, but he hasn't shown up yet.
All right, last call. Anybody else? Oh, Sarah.
We're going to do 2 drills, and we have a small team of 8 that are going to try to take the hub box apart before June and create a bag of supplies for each role.
Mm-hmm.
and label everything in advance. So we have our 10 people excited about that. And we would really like to share our articles, our monthly articles with you.
Yes.
So
That's
feel free to like cut and paste. And Margie writes has a really nice folksy tone. When I write, very rarely, I'm kind of scary. So we like to go with Margie.
Go with Margie. Yeah, she does. Susan and Louise are 2 of your big amplifiers. They have broad networks that they can distribute to. So,
Well, I like that idea of setting up, boxes within your hub box to, or containers or whatever with that relate to different functions. That's a cool idea.
The one thing I would say is, it's on the agenda and we might as well shift to it. We have 2 working groups who are looking at diving into the volunteer coordinator role. So I don't think what goes into their kit would really change, but some terminology might change. So just be aware of that's going on. And then I don't see Melissa Pico on tonight, but she's kind of working in conjunction with Jim about how those 3 functions that we all kind of go, things needed, people needed, skills needed, how do we really define those better or relate them better? So, before you get too far in, designing your 8 boxes, that just might want to keep up with what they've got in work.
Who's leading that? Because we've already designed all the categories. We haven't labeled them yet, but we just took a stab at it.
Well, I think I'm not sure if it's going to change, if it may just be the word change, but there's definitely a talk about, does medical become a thing or a skill? Do we get rid of medical altogether? And it's Melissa Pico who is running that. So if you're interested, she definitely could use some energy on her committee. She's had to have one person, a really strong person, step off for some family reasons. And so she would welcome somebody coming on.
Okay.
Anne, could you make the introduction from Melissa to Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely. Are you interested, Sarah?
Yeah, and we've got something to share right away. We'd love to have feedback. Because of course it could be improved.
Great. Thank you. All right. Anything else before I move on? Okay, Jim. So that was kind of your entree. I know that you weren't going to be ready to, do a meeting this early this month, but do you have any status to report?
Unfortunately, I don't. I'm involved in 2 other extracurricular activities, and they hit really hard this time of year.
Okay.
But I thought we had a lot of good ideas from when we talked before, and I feel like we're in a position to move forward. Just need to do it.
Yep. So Jim will be coordinating that, we had him take over the deep dive last time because I had to back out and we had space on the agenda. But that's another separate committee. And if you're interested in helping Jim on that, let him know. Jim, you might put your email in the chat just one more time. So, okay. All right. The next topic, and that was the Double Trouble follow-up workshops. And you want to talk Teachable Moment?
Sure. Not much to say. I've kind of dropped the ball on this one. We had a group of folks together talking about trying to figure out how to meet people where they were. Our neighbors who were panicking after a small earthquake and couldn't really decide how to do it. And there's some people that would naturally go to their hub and set up there and talk to neighbors. And there's others that wouldn't be anywhere near their hub. They would go to the local grocery store and set up there and talk to panicked neighbors, as they're rushing into the store to buy supplies or whatever. So go ahead, Cindy.
I think Jim had his hand up, or Jack. I'm sorry, Jack had his hand up. Oh, no. Okay.
Okay.
just watching Frank come and go.
So I'm going to reach out and see if anyone else wants to spend a little time talking to me about this. I just need somebody to bounce some ideas off of. I have an idea of how to move forward to kind of help meet everyone's needs. A lot of it's online, so maybe not a whole lot to stand there and talk to them about, but maybe some videos we can encourage folks to go watch so that everybody can kind of pick and choose what their need is. Maybe their need is basics, just water. Maybe it's way more advanced. So I will put out an email to the group, and if anybody wants to kind of chat over this with me and set me straight, I would love to bounce this idea off somebody. So that's it for Teachable Moment.
I think if there was, I think if there was available power for running like a laptop or something like that, having videos of those kind of things, short videos. Granted, it be in conceivably just one language or 2 languages. Things like doing water or sanitation, that sort of thing. That would take some of the weight off of the volunteers to say, yeah, we have this video, watch it here, and they can go off to talk with somebody else. So yeah, I think that's a cool idea.
Okay, cool. Jack, if you want to talk more, I'd love to.
That'd be great. Even a little card of QR codes to hand out.
Yeah. Something simple.
Good. It reminds me that City Light, we always talk about, gee, wouldn't it be great if the departments could put information in their newsletters? And I happened to have read my December City Light, and by God, there was something in there about making a kit. And I went, oh my gosh, they really are putting it in there. What a fluke that I read my newsletter in my bill. So, everybody tries, but not everybody pays attention to all the stuff we get. So the Teachable Moment, I think, could have a lot of power. So that would be great. That segues a little bit back into, poof, it was gone. Oh, I know what it was. So if you guys read the major accomplishments in the newsletter, there had been a workshop that about 5 hub captains had been invited to because of their relationship with a project that went on. We're so convoluted, and we have our fingers in so many pies. One of the people who Anne invited to Teachable Moment was a PhD student doing a program in Laurelhurst and South Park about community resilience. And because several of us were involved in that, we got invited to a combination workshop with Sendai, Japan, the University of Tohoku. I'm not sure I've got that right, but out of Sendai. and people in Seattle at the UW. And so it was a 4-hour session where people got to, explain about their different programs. And it was kind of an intergenerational aspect. They had a lot of elderly people they talked about the elderly people involved in their programs in Japan. And the problem with 4 hours and 40 people on, it was really hard to have a dialogue. And so we've recently gotten connected back with them, and they would like to have a more ongoing dialogue with the hubs and Sendai. So we're going to have an exploratory discussion with them about what would that look like, because I'm sure all you guys would love to, get to talk to people over there about the things we all worry about. How do you get the young people involved? How do you reach people who are, in high rises and maybe not in such a social environment? So, and they're very interested in our program because they see a lot of energy that, even though the threat is so much greater in Japan, constantly, that there is complacency around preparedness, amazingly. So we have the same problems, and so it'll be interesting to have a dialogue. So stay tuned for that. And Sandy, anything you want to add on that? I think Louise is the other one who was on that call. Nope. Okay.
I did.
Okay.
I wasn't able to make that call, but I learned of the call. But to me, the most impressive thing of that call was education to the children is very much in place, and the kids are being trained earthquake preparedness and what to do in an earthquake. And I think that's not happening here at all. So I think that's a really interesting piece to learn. That's probably the grounds up kind of place that it's ultimately going to be effective in having a sophisticated community.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that with the OEM saying that they're going to have a re-emphasis on focus on youth, maybe those will tag up. I don't remember. I know that people from the city of Seattle were invited to that, but I don't recall that anybody showed up. Matt might have been on for a little while.
I think Matt was there, and this was the one where the people from Westport were also there.
Right, that's right. So I bet
Washington has done an amazing job of a shelter in place for a tsunami. I mean, if there's going to be a major coastal tsunami, Westport's going to feel it immediately. And the upstairs, the school was designed, and the people in Westport paid for it. That didn't come from an outside source. And I think that they have done some work with the kids. So that would be a local group of experts that we might want to consider. That would be an easier ongoing conversation than the difficulty with the scheduling in Japan. So we might want to consider doing something with, at least consulting with Westport as well.
Yeah, if I was doing that, I would want the city at the table, because what Westport did was sponsored through their city. It was not a citizen-driven effort. So
No, but
I've got a note that I need to tie Sophia in on this whole conversation, because I'll bet it's not something Matt did much of a tie-in on. I'm sorry, Sandy, what were you saying?
the schools were really involved.
Yes, and here Curry acknowledged that Seattle School District had been disconnected for quite a while, but she felt like they were making that reconnection. They've had a person who's been coming to the disaster management committee meetings, and so there's a little bit of a spark of light. Catherine, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I don't know if people caught the news, but along the coast, between the state updating their risk to school report, which I can find the link and share, and people on the coast getting more activated and concerned about tsunamis, King 5's been constantly pushing. Yeah, they've been very informative. There's a school district, the school district that includes Ocean Shores, because I'm a little bit familiar with Ocean Shores, sticks out. they're trying to rebuild all the schools and move them all uphill. And they walked around the gym, and the principal was showing all the places where there'd been drilling and testing and the evidence of evaluations for earthquake readiness for like decades. And they said, now we really need to raise the money because we have to get out of the way of a tsunami.
Yep. Ron just learned that his high school in Seaside is going to be torn down and relocated up out of the tsunami zone, which is like shocking to someone. It's like, my life is disappearing, but yay, they're finally moving out on it.
Tribes can do a lot more as far as organizing, moving a town. I mean, it's a heavy hit on them, but state money,
Yeah. So, I see Louise. So Sandy's suggestion about making sure that we listen to Westport, well, make sure Sophia's tied into those conversations. And then I saw someone's hand up and then I lost it.
Me.
Oh, Louise.
Earlier you'd asked about outreach. To me, education in the schools are a huge issue. And I wonder if there could be some kind of a curriculum made for the PTA or student parent government that could bring education for earthquake preparedness into the school through the parents. And if that would be some kind of an outreach, I don't know how that would work exactly, but it seems to me that's a huge piece that's missing in our communities, is having the schools pretty sophisticated about the kids.
Yep. Well, I'll put that on the talk to Sophia about, because she'll come back to a meeting where we can actually have more dialogue with her. And then at least she's been on the job for 1 month and 6 days. So, we'll give her a little more time with that. Heads up, we're going to ask you these questions. So, okay, good. Any other general stuff before we move on to the last kind of network news stuff? No questions? So the last topic I have was just going to be a status report, but it's now turned into a fire drill, what we used to call at my work, fire drill du jour. There's been a subcommittee for about a year working on what we call the One Concern damage mapping project. And that was where we had access to the tool and we were able to do analysis. First, we did it of our hubs for our hub locations and safe locations. So you all kind of saw that and you saw what the tool could do and show damage. And then we said, cool, we've done that. Now let's see what's out there that we can engage in our community. So in the Southwest sector, we've now done 2 presentations on that, and they were pretty well received. I mean, people were kind of like mind boggled by, what this is going to look like. And I had the Morgan Community Association, because that's my group, say, we want you to come back and we want you to do 3 parts, talk about the building damage, talk about who's affected, and then what can we do about it. So cool, perfect use for the tool. And the other people on the work group were going, good, Cindy, you go first, you make all the mistakes, and then we'll duplicate what you're doing in our sectors or our neighborhoods. So Catherine has been busy building something for the Central East sector, and Margaret was working on something for East Lake. Then yesterday, we got word that the city was not going to renew its contract for access to that tool. And the contract would end in 6 days on January 31st. So that sort of left us all hanging with, geez, we've been talking to our communities about coming out with this sort of information. We put in all this time and effort, and the tool's being yanked. So it's not as simple a story as the city's too cheap or what all. There were expectations on both sides that changed, I guess is the best way to say it. And so part of me can understand why the city is not going to continue with the tool, because the company that developed the tool has said, well, we're really not going to support that tool anymore. We want you to go to this new tool. So it was kind of like a bait and switch on both sides. So regardless, we were in the middle of, okay, in 6 days, we won't have access to this tool anymore. The company, I talked to our liaison at the city, if somebody could find $25,000, they'd be glad to sign the contract for another year. But the OEM did not have the money for that. They wanted a department to maybe step up and do that. And then the only other two options beyond that would be to go and appeal at the mayor's office for $25,000. But OEM doesn't really want to use the tool anymore. And the departments who were supposed to use it, quite frankly, never got off the dime. And so the one or two people that used it at all used it like you do in a large bureaucracy where you have a million other things to do. And this is the lowest priority because it's not part of your actual performance report. So departments aren't going to come up with it. The mayor's office probably isn't going to come up with it. We could go to council and beg for money, but that's impossible to do outside of a budget cycle. So the other alternative, when I talked to Debbie Weiser, who is our liaison with the seismic concern team, is, could you give us an extension? Can you just let us have access to the tool for another month so we can do screenshots, which is what we use in presentations. We never do this live. And then at least we can continue to have our community conversations. So everybody, good news. We got an extension to March 4th. And so I need to have a meeting with all our one concern focals and to get the answer to the question, which is, if we, you need to screenshot it, and are we really going to do something with this? Because we've had access to tools before where we never got off the dime either. So at least we have access, and it hurts no one to have this extra month. But if we don't get what we need in the next month, we won't be able to go to the next step, which is to have conversations with our community. So the message to everybody on the meeting today is, if you had seen this tool and you were interested in doing a presentation about your community, however you want to define your community, you need to let me know so I can get it to the appropriate sector people, or I can get it to someone who's got time to do the right screenshots for you. And then we're going to go backwards and figure out, when are you going to do this? But at least we have it and can wait until COVID's gone and we do it in person or you do it online. So in the minutes, Gabrielle, that would be the one thing that we have to get out, is to say, if you want to do this presentation, you need to let Cindy know and what the boundaries of that are, or at least we'll get back to you and say, what is it we need to screenshot in the next 30 days? So 2 hands went up, Sophia and then Gabrielle.
Thank you. I just want to make sure, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I have been listening the whole time. I just want to make sure you knew that. And so I kept trying to raise my hand when you guys were mentioning me so I could speak, but it wasn't working. But now I have connection. The schools, yes. So we have our youth program. Mary Gerardo is overseeing the development of that. We're still working with her. Curry and I really want to be involved in that, but it's her. It's the reason we hired her. So I know it's something she's very passionate about. One of the things that in my short time here, and Curry and I are both trying to figure out how to fix this, but there seems to be some bad blood between the office and the Seattle School District. And so we're working through that, but there's some historical stuff we just don't know what. And so I was curious if anyone had any historical knowledge on relationship of OEM and the Seattle School Districts, public school districts, in the past years. And then there was something you were talking about that you weren't sure if Matt had attended, and I didn't quite catch what that was, but please definitely loop me in. If it's involving kids, youth, school, that's our focus all the time, but it's something that we really want to kick off the ground this year and have a program that we can work with. We know how hard it is to get into the schools. We know that, but in my past jobs, I have had schools reach out to me profusely, repeatedly, to come and speak to their kids. And so I, of course, come into this role all doughy-eyed, expecting the same thing to happen at Seattle School District, and it's not happening. So if anybody has any contacts or you have relationships with teachers, we want to help. We want to, work within their parameters. And I think Mary has some ideas for after-school programs. We have some meetings lined up next week. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we're at there. But whatever you guys have going on, definitely share, and share
Yeah.
alike. And I love listening to the ideas that you've been popping up on how to better engage with your community. And this is just, yeah, very thankful to be here.
Great. I will call you with the bad blood stories that I know. So, Gabrielle?
So I just want to get clear both for myself and for the
Yeah.
minutes that this tool is the one that focused on the physical environment, or was it the one that focused on the buildings?
It's the buildings and the social demographics that live on those blocks, the seniors, the vulnerable populations, the children. So it's where will damage occur and who will be impacted.
Is it the one that also had things such as liquefaction and landslides, or was that a different tool? Because that's something I was interested in, but I think I'm getting my tools confused, my software.
Yeah. The liquefaction and stuff is in Hazard Explorer.
Okay.
Seattle Hazard Explorer. Yeah.
So this is
and
for the buildings and the demographics and what I guess physical, like buildings, what could likely fall down.
Yep.
Okay, great. I'll add that to the minutes and you can just beef it up however you need to.
And can I ask one more favor?
Sure.
Can I sent the draft of the Morgan community presentation out, right?
Yeah, I will share that screen.
Well, or put it in the Google Drive and then send the link to Gabrielle. And then what can go in the minutes is take a look at this presentation. And if you want to give something similar to your community, that's, you need to flag us.
Gotcha.
Okay. You can share the screen though, so everybody can see, what's going on.
Thanks.
It's going to take me a second. Keep going.
Oh, okay. Well, that was kind of the end of the one concern stuff. But when you guys see the presentation, you'll see what happened was we took the one concern stuff. My Morgan people are super at wanting to help tell the story in a way they think people will absorb it. So they gave me a lot of input about when to talk Hazard Explorer stuff, when to bring in building damage. And then they had the second session is like, okay, let's really now dive in now that you've set the background and, the context you're talking in and who all is affected. And so you can see the screenshots that come out of one concern. And then the third part is not all the way fleshed out because I got 2 more months to work on that. But, what will we do as a community? How do we deal with the Gatewood Elementary School and the Kenny being 2 of the big unreinforced masonry buildings in our neighborhood? Should we have some kind of a idea or plan in place of, what we would do? Yeah. So even though it says draft, very little changed. So if you just plow through it, we talk about the damage on the 3 different kinds. We talk about what, red tag buildings look like. In Morgan, what it's really saying is the darker the colors, the more buildings are damaged on each block. And so because that nice little red line is the actual fault line for a Seattle fault that was in this simulation, we feel like we're kind of screwed. And one of the buildings that fault line runs through is our senior home in Morgan. So, and Gatewood Elementary is not far off that line. So go ahead. I think you just sort of, you kind of came in the middle.
Yeah.
But so that's what it does. It walks people through, what are we talking about and why are we talking about it? So when you get the link, go take a look at it. And what we have to do before March 1st is define the boundaries. Like that is Morgan Junction. That's our planning area. And so all the metrics that come off of that, like how many seniors live on all those blocks and how many people of economic low income live on those blocks and how many children live on those blocks, we have to get those screenshots so I can get these sort of numbers before March 4th. Okay. So that was what, instead of a status report, it's an action item for everybody. So one last topic I have is kind of like a tee up, and you all get to make the decision. We've been talking about the leadership conference, and I keep going back and forth on the calendar. And the last time we talked about it in the hub captains, we got input that weekends just kind of like are terrible because there's people who actually have requirements or, commitments on the weekend, and they're going to miss a weekend event. And I went, you know what? Why don't we just use the next hubcap meeting as a leadership retreat, and we'll expand it and make it into a 3-hour evening meeting. I know that's terrible, or 2.5, or whatever we do. And I don't see that we're going to be out of COVID. I thought if Omicron hadn't come along, we would have been out of it, but we're not going to be out of it. So it's going to have to be a virtual meeting, just kind of bummer, but I think that's okay. And we just do this in a regular kind of hub captain Zoom meeting. And the only thing I think I would do different is from what we've done before is there are 4 areas where tasks need to be picked up. And so the leadership retreat has to say, we've been doing these things, and if Cindy's not doing it any longer, is it worthwhile doing? I mean, sometimes I do stuff because I think it's important, but maybe everybody else is going like, yeah, that was nice, but no, not everybody's got the bandwidth you had to go do that sort of stuff. So there's 4 breakout areas that I'm going to propose. Most, the 2 top ones are how our hubs operate, our functions, and the other one is our outreach. So those are 2 big breakout groups. And then the other 2 are, what does the leadership structure of the hubs look like going forward? There's been many models we've talked about, a nonprofit, a 501c3, a board driven, we have to make some decisions around that because we've been talking about it for 2 years that we need to make some decisions around that. And the last one is the icky, boring one, but some people really like it. And that's the administrative tasks that are related to the hub network, the email, the website, the, behind the scenes stuff that sometimes people like doing because you can just go off and do it. But if we don't get it assigned out and somebody commits to helping on it, it needs to go away, So that's my proposal and so get ready, because I'm going to ask you to do thumbs up or thumbs down, and thumbs down means, that means you want to discuss something. So we're going to do it on the next hub captain meeting. Oh, dang it. I lost my day timer. I'm looking for Ron to see it. It's got to be around here somewhere. Oh, there it is, Ron. 2 months from now, on a Thursday night for 2.5 to 3 hours, we'll take bio breaks in the middle of it and have general dialogue, but we'll also give everybody an opportunity to dive into the room that they're interested in and figure out how we're going to work. And we may need 2 sessions, but at least we can get some direction going. It would be on Thursday, March 24th. So does that sound like a working plan that I can go forward with? So you can use the little yellow thumbs or you can stick your thumbs up. I saw Jack put his thumb up earlier. Cheryl, I'm not seeing, and Gabrielle, Frank, Louise, Catherine. I think we're good.
Well, this is Gabrielle. I support this, but it's possible I will not be in the country at that time. It's a long shot given the COVID, but we might be going to visit my daughter, and that's the time that we have to go. So
okay, well,
I support it otherwise. And, yeah,
there's always going to be someone like
no,
Ron
yeah,
Angeles.
I know you got to go when you got to go. Yeah, but otherwise, I think it's a good idea.
Always misses because of his saxophone lessons. So I'm going to break his arm to miss a lesson for once.
I'm sorry, what month were you talking about?
March.
Late March?
Yeah, it would be our next regular hub captains meeting, which everybody should have on their calendar anyway.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I have some travel I need to do in late March, early April.
Okay.
Probably I'll be there on March 24th.
Okay.
I mean,
I don't think everything's going to get done. And then I will also try and make a call for people who are, if you're out of the area, at least tell me what area you're interested in so we can make sure you get tied into whoever is, kind of spearheading whatever comes out of those. So Frank, you're back. Yay. All right. Thank you. I can at least move forward. I've got a lot of stuff that people have given me in the past 6 months as we built up to this about topics to address. And so I will definitely have each of those subgroups well organized for the topics that need to be discussed or decisions made. So hopefully it won't be too painful having to do it in breakout rooms. All right. Is there anything in the chat that I missed on any of that? I saw some stuff going by about schools and museum stuff, but on this topic, is there anything else?
Jack asked about a replacement tool for one concern. To my knowledge, Seattle doesn't have a replacement tool.
The seismic concern company, I did not realize that they were really a startup and they were funded by venture capitalists, how that whole story goes. So that's why they had offered it free to the OEM to try and get some interest. That startup went another direction and they decided to go with this was called One Concern. They went with something called Domino, and it does something different. It does something more specific to building characteristics, durability during an earthquake. And OEM was not interested in that. And that's part of why they elected to not renew the One Concern contract. So.
Yeah, but what I was thinking was everybody in the county and the city uses ArcGIS is the actual tool they use for all the mapping, the hazard mapping, everything. And I'm not sure why some of that scenario, at least the Seattle fault scenario data, somehow the output of those simulations as far as what they got out of it, it'd be really good if they could get that, if there isn't proprietary, they could buy the data from seismic and integrate it into our existing mapping infrastructure, which is throughout the city and the county.
Well, I think that's what they were doing. They were buying access to the tool, which meant they were buying the data.
Not really. If you're buying people get all proprietary about data, even though it's integration, but it's the tool the city and the county use is ArcGIS. So I know they won't want another tool. If they can get the numbers from the scenario run, like the Seattle quake phenomenon scenario run on October 10th, those.
I see what you're saying. They did say that we could extract the data, but none of us use ArcGIS nor have ArcGIS accounts of that professional level that we could put it in and pull it out.
I wouldn't volunteer to be I wouldn't volunteer to buy, I can't run ArcGIS. It's right. But it's the city IT that ought to do it and put it in layers. The city has a whole ArcGIS. I can do layers.
Okay. So Catherine, I'm not going to solve the city's problem.
No, we can talk later what I mean.
Yep.
It's a request to the city to integrate some data, at least get the value of the data that we got.
Okay. It's beyond me. I just want the dang tool, right? I don't want to have to hassle with solving the problems of the city and why they don't do a lot of things we think they should do. So I'm sorry that we'll just kind of put the cap on this discussion. So before I go off into around the room, is there anything else from all the other stuff we talked about that anybody else is doing a last minute? Oh, I wish I knew something more about. Okay, then I'm going to turn you all loose on around the room. Oh, Patty, I'm sorry. You guys, if you can use your little yellow hand, at least I could see those.
Yeah, I forget where it is, but okay. So, but this tool, the buildings and where everything is there a year that was taken, or is it? Do we know? Just curious.
It is current to today's building. Whatever's on the ground as of. They pull all the current records out of SDCI, so it's based
2021.
Yeah. Well, I might say 2020, but within a year. And
Okay,
then the real problem is the census data is 10 years old because they've been waiting for the
yeah, who
census
lives there?
to get
Yeah.
released, and it didn't get released until, it may still not even be released. And now there's no way they're going to incorporate that just for us.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Okay, any other general stuff? Okay. I'm just gonna go by names because it's just gonna be easier that way. So Sandy, Ann, and Jack, do you guys have anything for around the room?
Well, I just wanted to mention from last Sunday's newspaper, if you saw the Times photo of the year, that was from Vance Thompson was the winner, and he's at Hawthorne Hills and has been very active in emergency management for years and is well known to Lake City. And I don't know whether he's actually a bona fide hubcap because I'm not sure they have a hub there, but
No.
he's identified with Hawthorne Hills. So you should go back and check that photo out. It's nice to have so many multi-talented people in this group of people. That's all I have.
Hey, Ann?
Sure. So the North Seattle hubs are getting together in February. I have February 24th, a Thursday. So opposite of this meeting, two things that are on the agenda that folks might want to tune in regardless of where you are in the city. Christian's a ham radio operator and active here in North Seattle. We're going to try and put FL Digi on my laptop. And if we can do that, then we'd like to teach other people if you're interested. Yeah, Cindy and Ron are laughing. So very technical. We'll try and explain that during the hubcap meeting. And then also, if there's time, I think I'd like to go through the startup guide, which is a really generic document that folks have. But if you want to really customize it to your site, I'll show you how I did. And I'm interested in talking to Sarah and the Madison Park folks too, because I know she's been really interested in that. Making your startup guide even more specific and usable to the Joe Schmuckatelli that walks up and tries to put your hub together. So quick start guide and possibly radio stuff. And then, yeah, I think that's it. Probably. I don't think we can talk about anything else at that meeting. I think those two are pretty big topics. So March 24th, I'll send out information. Like I said, anybody's welcome to listen in.
Jack, and then it'll be Andy and Catherine.
Jim and I have been exchanging messages during the meeting, and I think we're going to get together sometime in the near future as we can with the new executive director at the PNA and the person that's in charge of their emergency response stuff, and get to know each other and you have an understanding of what each group's going to do. So that'll be one step, and we'll go forward with other things Jim may bring up. So,
okay, Jim, I might as well pop you in.
I have nothing to add.
Okay, just in case. Andy, and then
Andy's
Catherine,
speechless.
and then Louise. You were so fast, I was talking over you.
Yeah, I'm speechless.
Okay. Catherine, and then Louise.
We don't have much going on.
And we're still working on your hub box. I tell you, the parks guy has been swamped.
The only thing we're gearing up for is at some point to set up the hub, maybe some kind of an event, but just people are more narrowly focused in their personal lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grabbing screens from this tool.
Yeah, good. All right, Louise, and then Cheryl.
I think I've said what we're doing, so I think it's been covered.
Okay. Cheryl, and then after that will be Frank and Bill.
Okay. I definitely want to get these screenshots. I'm very interested in one concern for Ballard. So I do need to get together with Hugh.
Yep, okay.
Just FYI for me.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I'll be doing screenshot school here soon, I'm sure.
Okay.
Bill and Frank, and then followed by Sarah.
Well, I guess I'll start just Miqua Hubs. We continue to meet the second Thursday of the month in a formal meeting on Zoom, as well as lots of informal meetings amongst Miqua Hub members. We don't have much else other than plan or hopes to put together times to set up the hubs and see what we really have in the boxes and how well it works. Frankie, anything else to add?
No, that pretty much covers it. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that pretty much covers it. We're looking at our, strategic planning and review our operations manual.
Very good. Okay. Sarah and then Gabrielle.
Okay, the Madison Park Hub, which also covers, the Arboretum, Broadmoor, and Denny Lane and Washington Park. We've done a quick start for the box, and now you've heard we're going to divide things into bags and give people their role description and their individual quick start. And we are the article coming out this month in the newspaper that you will get, I'll send you, is recognizing the suffering we've all been through with Omicron, and the recommendation that people buddy up to do their earthquake prep in their homes. And so there's several resources that are linked, and so it's kind of a, just keeping people on their toes.
Great, very good. Gabrielle and Patty together.
We haven't done much, but since Patty and I live in the same neighborhood, we finally have a date for a community meeting, not a hub meeting, just a community meeting. And one of my neighbors has been bugging me to get that on the books, so finally I relented. And as soon as I sent that message out, I had a couple people that I know are mobility limited email me and say, can you appoint someone to touch base with me? So then I said, well, I'll think about that, but I was inspired to at least start a list. And so I'm going to talk about that in the meeting and just say, if you know a neighbor, somebody I don't know that's mobility limited, can you let me know? And that's like, that it's such a small little thing, but I hadn't done it before. And so I'm thinking about that. And we're going to have a meeting, and the hub is going to be one of the things we're going to talk about in our neighborhood meeting.
Wonderful. And if you want any guidance or help, we have a friend in the city who really wants to help us work with people with access and functional needs. So that'd be great.
That'd be good.
Yep. Patty, anything else to add?
Ditto.
Okay, ditto, good. Susan and then Brianna.
Okay, not much happening with Dejan Park Hub currently. We've got a lot of kind of overwhelming things happening around the neighborhood. There was a great article, maybe some of you saw the link, South Seattle Emerald, where Ron was the covered person. So that was great. And just continue to send out information. One of the overwhelming things we're having is our hub site is becoming more and more occupied by homeless encampments. And I don't know if anybody else has been dealing with that, but I would appreciate some guidance. If anybody can, has any ideas, please feel free to contact me separately. But just
Susan, are those in a park?
Yeah.
Catherine and Susan, you might want to talk, because Catherine's hub box has not been able to go in for about 8 months because there was tents set up where we had designated the box.
I'm losing connection here. I can't.
Okay. Catherine Keller at Homer Harris.
Okay.
Their hub box was supposed to go in where an encampment was set up. And so now that that's gone, we still haven't been able to get the box in. So it's impacted several.
Yeah, we have it across the street at a private residence, but the situation there is completely fluid. It just keeps changing and it keeps growing and growing and growing. So we're just hopeful, everybody's just hopeful that something happens and we can reorganize. It's just a little overwhelming right now.
Yeah, just make sure it's chained down. I mean, double
Well,
chained down.
Yeah, we have it secured at this private residence across the street. It's not in the
Okay.
park. Yeah,
Okay, good.
for a variety of reasons. Yeah.
I might touch base with you when I get home. So,
Okay.
okay. Anybody else have anything else? Otherwise, I'll do my around the room. So I did the Morgan presentation. That has generated some interest. And they want to do some kind of an exercise in the park as part of the third series will be actually in July when I do the third presentation. And so I might end up having to do a little Morgan exercise somewhere in early July. And then the only other thing I had left on the agenda really was our deep dives. You know, I've got like about 5 topics lined up right now. We have a really interesting thing on how the electrical grid works. That would be a great learning for everybody. But I think what I want to do is slide in this one concern presentation and either do the Morgan one as though I was presenting to a community group so you guys can all go, oh, I get, you know, I didn't understand why all these charts were like this. And now I see what she's talking about. And then you can quickly raise your hand and say, well, I hadn't thought about that before, but now I want you to snapshot my neighborhood. So I think that's what we might do for the February 8th deep dive. Does that sound decent? I just hate to lose that opportunity and have people go, oh, I didn't realize what I was going to miss. So, and then after that, we'll do the electrical grid. And then the third thing is the city has a excellent logistics coordinator. And I thought I might bring her in to talk about how the city is going to handle logistics, just so you, as we're standing out there going, where's the city? You have some idea of what they really are trying to do to help bring resources into the city after a major disaster. So, okay, I've gotten a couple thumbs up that sounds good. So, okay, that'll be the kind of the going plan. Anything else for the good of the order?
Oh, I have something I need to connect with Ann on. I connected with another person in Magnuson and they really want to do something, but just knowing the population there and the buildings, I really feel like the people that run those facilities need to take on more of a role. So I've been encouraging this person to try to connect with them as well. So I'll try to connect with you, Ann.
We'll chat. Yeah, thanks.
Which, the solid ground, are they in the solid ground buildings or are they in the Mercy housing?
They're in Mercy, but both sets of tenants share some and also have different concerns. So
Yeah, I know. We may ask the city to help us with this because this is part of private partnerships that they should have, because Mercy Housing is all over the city. And just like Seattle Housing Authority, if they're not working with those folks to help them understand what their responsibilities as managers of those buildings are, we are just toast. So I'll let you two talk and then we'll see if we want to elevate it.
that would be
Anything
great.
else? Anything else go to the order? Brianna, did I miss you on Around the Room? I did.
I mean, it's okay because I don't have a whole lot to share. And at any given point, my kid might start screaming. So I must do for everybody's ears if I don't talk long. But Anne has been wonderful and has been trying to contact with the city because our box was installed in the wrong location. And she finally got an email reply, which is great. So they acknowledge that they've received her email. Like that's a big thing. And we're really happy about that. And also we're still waiting for a replacement lock since our box was broken into. So yay, right?
Yeah, that is the city responded to Anne. That's like party time.
So thanks, Anne, for doing that. And you know,
my pleasure.
Go 2020 version 3.0. Here we go.
Yeah, really. All right. Anybody else go to the order? Or we get out early tonight. All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll go ahead and stop the recording and then you can have some last minute conversation if you want.